Hey guys, welcome to Abide. Looking forward to being with you today. Thanks for letting us be a part of your life. We're here with another episode. We're going to talk about being dads. Before I do that, I got some product I want to throw at you real quick. Thank you, Lee. Josh is sporting our new Abide shirt. We've had a lot of guys ask about this. If you want an Abide shirt or an Abide hat, Lee's going to put a email address on here. You can check that out. Go there. Give us your name, just tell us what you need, and we'll get back with you on all that product. But we're looking forward to today. Me and Josh, we're going to be talking some about being a dad. Being a dad's tough, and but it is what it is. We're both dads.
I'm glad you got all the answers because I'm needing them.
I don't have all the answers, and
I'm needing them.
It's tough being a dad.
Yeah.
We're kind of in the same boat, but we got about 4 years apart when it comes to raising our kids. My son just turned 23 yesterday, and my daughter, she turned 20 last month. So, and your kids, how old are your kids?
16 and 13. And yeah, I've been able to watch and see how the journey goes, trial and error with you, a couple other people.
You have used me as a guinea pig.
As a parent, listen, you should be watching.
And you laughed at me about a lot of stuff.
Now I'm eating crow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when my daughter went off to school and it bothered me, what did you do? You kind of laughed. You was like, suck it up. So what happened a couple of weeks ago? You had to take your daughter to go visit a college,
I took her to Lee University in Tennessee, and the next thing I know, we're leaving, and she's already pre-registered to leave for this summer for honors. And I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, oh, I got a roommate, got it all figured out. And it's this hard place in life where you feel like you can't live without these kids and they're part of your life, but you're supposed to be training them that they live without you. And so, man, what a journey that we're on as dads, as husbands.
I knew you was up there too, and I called you, remember? Yeah. I called you not to encourage you, but I called you just to aggravate you because I remember all those times you was giving me a hard time. And I was like, hey, buddy, what are you doing? And you was like, I'm wanting to punch every young man that comes and talks to my daughter. I want to punch him in the face.
Yeah, so this guy walked up, and I knew a friend. I was at college. His son's my daughter's age, and we were just talking for a minute, and all of a sudden, hey, so what's your daughter's name? And I literally said, dude, I'm not giving you an edge. I'm not telling you her name. I'm not telling you nothing.
It's none of your business who my daughter's name is.
Good luck.
But you know what? You're right, and we're going to, we're not going to get heavy on the daughter issue today as far as there's some things that we're going to talk about, but there's things down the road I want to talk about like when your daughter start dating. Mine's, like I said, mine's 20. She's going to be transitioning to, thinking about the rest of her life for too long. And that's tough, man.
Yeah, but if we don't start thinking about these conversations now, we can't wait and let it creep up on you. We're to be raising our kids now in the very places we want them to be. And so those conversations have to be in the now.
Well, and that's why I'm glad we got this platform, because when I remember I was reflecting yesterday, 23 years ago, my son come home, and I looked at my wife, and I was like, man, I can't believe this, And 23 years ago, I became a dad, and I remember sitting there. I woke up. I usually could just go and do what I want to. I'd get up, just hit the truck, get dressed, get in the truck, and go. But I remember after he was born, I had to check on him. I had to rock him. I had to help feed him and all that stuff. And I remember like 3 days after he was born, I looked down at him and I was like, dude, you just changed my life forever. You just changed my life. And there was nobody doing podcasts back then. There was nobody that was giving us advice.
Let's be for real. Was there even the internet? I think it was that dial-up for me.
Yeah, probably was.
Yeah.
But we just want to listen. There's guys out there today that might be watching that you're a new dad. Maybe you're getting ready to get married. Get started now, man. Get started now and applying these things. And, we're just excited to be able to help walk this through. We had somebody with us last week.
Yeah, I had Aaron Aho, great friend, pouring into my life. He's another one. Look, you keep leading. I'm following. I'm watching. Been raising kids.
Need to go back and watch that episode.
Yeah, pretty powerful story he's got. And so Trey and I don't have it figured out. The thing that we are realizing is we are in the wrestle, that we long to be the men that God's called us to be the husband, to be the father, to be the disciple that God's called us to be. And we want to be able to be overcomers in all those areas. One of the scriptures that comes to mind in Revelation chapter 12, verse 11, it says, and they who overcome, Revelation continues. The book continues to talk about those who overcome, to those who overcome. And I want us to be the men that maybe we've not yet met the full potential that God has for our life, but I want us to be overcoming every obstacle, every season we have with our children, with our wives, to be overcomers. And he says we're overcomers by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. And so Aaron had an amazing testimony, and this is what we're here for. We create a platform to go tell your story. We're listening. We're wanting to grow and know, what's God done in your life. There's an expression, and I love it. Only a fool has to learn through an experience. Listen, and so if you've walked something and you've been somewhere and you go, hey, don't take this path, change this, do this, I'm listening because I want to walk as an overcomer. And so Aaron was here, Aaron Aho, check that out. And you got some guys that are overcomers.
I got some guys with us today. We're going to be talking. I got two brothers with us today, Brad and Chris Wood. They're with us today. They actually go to church with me, and we're looking forward to hearing from them. I won't talk about them in just a second, but we touched on the scripture the other day, and I'm not going to throw a whole lot of scripture at you, but we're talking about overcoming, talking about being a man of God. But we touched this scripture the other day in Matthew chapter 4. It talks about Jesus walking on the shore, and he looks at James and John in the boat, and they're in the boat with their dad, and he said, listen, if you want to, you need to follow me. And they had their hands tied up. The Bible says they were preparing their nets. And the more I've thought about that and studied about that, they were preparing their nets because they already had a plan to do something tomorrow. Mm-hmm. They already had it figured out. They said they were in the boat with their dad. That dad probably had given them the boat. It was theirs. He had some heritage into it or whatever, some sentimental value. There was experience. There was knowledge. It was comfortable. And Jesus walks by, and when Jesus comes into your life and you accept it, he will wreck your plans. Mm-hmm. And we're going to talk about that a little bit today, but they had their hands in their nets, but they had to decide to let go of the nets to follow Jesus. There were some things they had to leave behind. And so we got Brad and we got Chris, just so somebody will know who's who. They're twins. So Chris is the one right here closest to Josh, and Brad's over there.
Yeah, good looking.
The skinny one.
But these two guys, they mean a lot to me. I've seen these guys grow. But we're talking about being godly fathers. Before we get into your stories, let me just hear y'all's opinion. Chris, you tell me what, and we'll hold off on stories. But just in a nutshell, how important it is in your life, and then we'll get Brad's to just be a godly father.
But I don't think you don't need to do it without him.
Yeah.
He's
How many kids you got?
I've got two girls, they're 16 to 18, and Lord, we call on the Lord a lot right now.
Absolutely.
Got one fixing to leave, go to college this fall, so that's been
How many know
been tough.
The boys call your home too?
Yeah, the boys don't like me that much.
They don't like you that much?
But on a God note, I know he's going to take care of them, and I'm called to take care of them.
That's right.
And that's our foundation.
Yeah. Brad, what do you think? As far as why do we need? Is it important to have a godly man?
Well, I think it's very important. I think it's my kids are much older than you. I got a 23-year-old. She's married. I got my first grandson, which
awesome.
He'll be 6
That's
months
right.
old this Saturday, actually, and true blessing. But I got one that's same age as Reagan. 20 years old, 21.
They as thick as thieves. Yeah.
Yeah, and my thing is every story matters to God.
Yeah.
So, coming through the godliness and getting my life right, I've seen blessings pour upon my daughters.
Mm-hmm.
That's the importance to me, to be able to come in. Trey, we were talking about it, like the whole row in the church is my son-in-law and Braylon's boyfriend, Isaac, and Jaylee, the baby, Jenny, my whole family's down through there. That is,
You fill the whole row up. Yeah.
5 years ago, dude.
Yeah.
Y'all far from feeling the road at church.
Oh, we wasn't even on the road. You know, they're
That's the honest God truth. 5 years ago, were
That's
you?
true, yeah.
5 years ago is when I mean my life was flipped.
Yeah.
Like,
And so what if every man listening right now, if they could just take away this one nugget, what if life is not about you seeing what you can get out of it and what is about me? What if this is one big relay? It's a relay race of I'm just wanting to give this truth that I've now received to you. And that's the journey of what this thing is, because this life is short.
that's right.
That's right.
But, you know, my deal was people's going to judge me. They're going to talk about me. They're going to do this. But I also thought, am I too old for this? You know, like,
You are getting pretty
There's an
old.
expression.
yeah.
you
teach
know,
an
I'm
old
pretty
dog
good.
new
I,
tricks.
back
That's
then, I
what
was
it is.
43 years old. I think I was, you know, y'all's age. But God, when he humbled me, but I praise God every day that he didn't humble me through my children. You know, when that journey started, actually, my youngest daughter was the leader of our family, and I'm like, God, I apologize. You know, I'm so
I'll
sorry.
never forget that day.
That's true.
But that,
Yeah.
and we'll talk about
And
that. I will share
it's
that story. But we're talking about being godly fathers. But I think one of the things that the guys that are watching today is this: is you can't just start off being a godly father because, yeah, that's the final product, and that's what we want, and that's what your kids need. But before you can become a godly father, you first got to be a godly man.
Yep.
You know, you got to get this. You can't ask God to fix your family and Him not fix you, because according to the spiritual blueprint, it starts at the man. You know, there are things that your children and the women, God never intended for them to be. Some of them have had to be a generic version of you, and I'm not saying anything bad about the women, but there are roles that God intended for a man to step into. And when God doesn't, it has an effect.
Yeah, and truly, one of the things we've said so many times is that there are so many guys that are crushing life in hobbies and at work, but when it comes to this leading your life, because let me ask a question, because I don't know y'all completely. I want to hear some stories, but were y'all crushing life in your hobbies? Coon hunters?
Oh
Yeah,
man.
Were y'all crushing life as a
Daylight
coon
to
hunter?
dark.
Yeah.
Was your daughter leading in that area, or was you had that figured out?
Yeah, I had it figured out.
Yeah.
And y'all been coon hunting a while.
Yeah.
How long y'all been coon hunting?
All my life.
All your life.
Ever since we could walk, you know.
What's your favorite dogs?
Walkers.
Oh yeah, ain't nothing like a walker.
Yeah. And but you know, it's like my grandfather always, he don't get blindsided by the good ones either, you know. So I know a good one when I see it.
Yeah.
Well, if you could take one dog that you've had over the years you've hunted, just one dog.
For him, it would have been a black and tan named Smokey.
Yeah.
Smokey.
Well, he was good.
He was good,
but
wasn't
yeah, he was.
But then you had Rock.
He wasn't. I guess the best dog would be Little River Henry, got
Yeah,
from
he
Cliff
was good.
McCracken, and he came by. I'm telling you, he was gamey. He was competitive, and the thing about Henry, he was a winner. If we was gonna win on circle trees, we're gonna get it. If he's gonna go win it on least amount of minus, he's gonna beat the man. But man, when the coons was moving, he could shine like a new penny.
Ain't it crazy how we go out of our way? I drove to Ohio, made a turnaround. It was never slept. Did a complete turnaround. Luke Morgan had a walker, and it was a jam up walker. I drove all the way to Ohio, and a friend rode with me, Stephen McDaniel, and he kept going. We going all the way up here to get a coon dog? You don't understand, bud. You don't understand. Like I'll go these great distances to get a coon dog, to get what I want from my hobby.
Yeah.
And you just told the story of, man, you're crushing life in that hobby. I'm going to go way out of my way to do this. I'm going to train, study. I want to do this well. And your family's struggling.
And you got your hands in a lot of stuff. And
There's
we
work at home to be done.
yeah. And we're going to, we'll have a time to where we're just going to talk coon hunting and laugh and tell stories. I want to hear that. But y'all had y'all's hands in other, you got your hands in other stuff too. Y'all both are chicken farmers for a living.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a big responsibility.
Huge responsibility. But with saying that, I want to back up I think as men, we talk about our husbands, and we all at fault.
Mm-hmm.
Or before, we get connected to God,
Mm-hmm.
we looking for a fix, and personally, if you can't get it at home, you know,
You go find it.
whether it's a dog or a horse, whatever, you're looking for happiness.
Yep.
And it's right here
Yeah.
Right.
in the word, you know.
That's right.
but-
It's a fulfillment. There's something the
right.
man's looking for. He's looking for adventure. He's looking for purpose. I think purpose is a good
Yeah,
word.
that is.
Definitely.
But y'all, you got to. In the world throws a lot of false purpose on us, but there's things we got to do, and I'm talking about responsibility. You got responsibility, and going back to y'all's living, y'all chicken farmers.
That's right.
For an example, how many chicken houses you got?
I got 4.
And you got
I got 4.
That's
okay.
a lot of work.
Just to give
Roughly
people an
90
example,
92,000 chickens.
92,000 chickens are on your farm right now.
Yep.
In each house, how many chickens are in each house?
23,000.
23,000 chickens that you're responsible for. Now, if something happens, if a house goes down or something like that, and you lose, that's major impact on your income. Correct?
I sure.
It's huge.
It keeps
You're
you
still
walking.
living.
It keeps you
Yeah.
walking those chicken houses, don't it?
Yeah.
You got to be there daily.
Uh-huh.
Y'all got other things. Y'all got other interests in life. Chris, you like to you in the
Yeah,
rodeo.
like I said, we got the 2 girls, and we rodeo.
Mm-hmm.
We like team rope a lot, you know. Girls break away, and takes a lot of time to do that, you know. And
It's an investment.
it's an investment, you know. And but thank God I'm with them.
Yep.
I get to, you know, they do it, but it's a family ordeal, you know. My wife don't ride or rope, but she's probably one of the best cheerleaders we got. So,
Yeah, that's a big deal too.
you
ain't
know,
it?
it's a lot of support, and it's a lot of fun, you know. We love it.
Y'all grew up in fair play and just love old country boys, just
Yeah.
loving life. You recently had your hand in horse sale.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, we started, it was, I guess 13 years ago. Chris and I on the Easton Ollie, which was W&W Livestock, had a fun run at it, you know. But it may come later on into the podcast about what it's we as fathers got to let go. And we'll get to talk more about that. But Chris and I we don't do that horse sale anymore.
It's a lot of responsibility.
It's a lot of paperwork, responsibility, state stuff, federal stuff that went into it. But you know, God blessed us with that good horse sale. But I have another horse sale in Dublin, Georgia. It's twice a year, and it's more of a superior like deal. It's the internet, a good sale. But you know, I'm not holding on to it because my focus is on.
You got
what-
your hands in. You had.
Yeah.
I mean, y'all's lives. You've had your hands in a lot of stuff.
a lot of stuff. Yeah.
You know, there's no. You can't say, well, we ain't been busy. We've been living life. You know.
And to the fullest, you
Yeah.
know.
And there's this place where just even listen to hear y'all talk. I'm in John 1 reading with the church, and there's this place with John the Baptist disciples. They're walking with John the Baptist. Jesus meets them, and he says, "What are y'all seeking for?"
Yeah.
Kind of like the guys that were fishing when Jesus walks up, and they got life figured out. Like y'all are doing some things really well.
Yeah.
But when Jesus said, "What are you seeking for? What are you looking for?" You said, Chris, a little bit ago, is man, I've looked at all these hobbies. I've looked everywhere. And I love Jesus' response. He said, "Come follow me.
That's right.
Come see." His words of "come see." Whatever it is you're looking for, come see. And it sounds like y'all have had your hands in looking for the fulfillment,
Our
the
whole
purpose
life.
as a man,
Yeah. And now we're in a season of turning them nets loose.
and coming to see what
Yeah.
God has
But
for us.
those nets were legitimate nets.
Yeah.
I mean, and they had been put in your hands for a reason. I mean,
I believe so.
let's talk. How in the world wants people to think. The world wants a man to think that you getting that dollar every day is important, right?
Right.
And a lot of the stuff that y'all was doing was to get an extra dollar, wasn't it?
That's right.
It was all about the dollar.
I mean, you also are a farrier, correct?
Yep.
And you shoe horses and
Yep.
um,
Tough job, but it's another deal. You
Yeah.
know, just go. But things is changing.
yep.
So
But let's go 5 years ago, both of y'all. Y'all wasn't coming to Calvary at I think y'all just started.
No.
How long's it been? How long y'all been coming?
See, we was going to another local church just
We ain't gonna talk about denominations because it's not
It
about
ain't-
religion.
No, that's
But
right.
you were
but
checking
no.
boxes, I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were checking boxes,
boxes.
Josh.
But you was living life. Y'all was
Well, we
making
was hiring,
money.
we was pouring in the money. I mean, but let me back up on that a little bit. Even though we was making all the money, we were getting all the joys, we were checking all the boxes, it's still like I was feeling a void. Like, I know it ain't right because, we was always respectful around mom and dad. My mom and daddy, I mean, they brought us up from day one.
Mama praying woman.
Mama praying, Papa and Granny praying,
Funny
Daddy
story, real
praying.
quick. First time I met them, I went. They took me to their chicken houses, and we drove by one of their chicken houses, and there was a handprint on one of the chicken houses.
Yep.
I was like, "What is that? Is it yours?"
Mine.
Is it yours?
Both of us.
Both of them. And I was
have
like,
it,
"What
yeah.
is that?" And he said, "That's where my mama anointed her hand and laid her hand on our chicken house, and that oil stuck to that metal."
Mom
It's
Praying
there
up.
to this day.
Oh, Kathy Wood, she a praying woman. Oh,
She's a
oh,
praying
Harry
warrior,
Wood,
man.
They
guarantee.
godly people. We love them.
But she watched us like a little bird on a limb. She just would keep watching us. But I reflect getting in the Word and following what God has for us to do. Her prayers are just now, she's seeing results of her prayers. Because I can tell you my mama's prayed for us through the hard times, rolling up and down the road, making the money.
Wasn't living right.
Wasn't living right. And go to church, put on a good picture, and or
Be the devil on
Be-
Saturday and the deacon on
on
Sunday.
Sunday.
Yeah, playing dress up. Really.
Playing
Just
dress
playing
up.
dress
Check
up
the
on
box,
Sunday.
boom. Sunday,
It
1
was a
o'clock.
religious thing, and that's one
Gone.
of the things I think we're talking about.
Yeah.
God's not looking for a religious lifestyle. He wants
Yeah.
a relationship. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
right. Yeah.
But to go back to your question about the Calvary, we weren't coming here, but my daughter had this little buddy named Reagan,
Which is my
which is
daughter.
Pastor Trey's daughter.
Tell. I'm gonna let you tell it from your perspective of Braylon in that red dress.
That wrecked my world.
Tell us a little bit about that. So Reagan invites Braylon.
So Braylon had been coming to Ruwalk,
Okay, the youth group.
and Daddy's working just like man's daylight to dark, and this is
And
this
you
is
in
through the-
everything right here. Chicken farm.
Oh, we neck deep in
selling
horse
this.
traveling camps, just putting horses where they needed to be, pouring the coal to it.
Mhm.
But got a pocket full of money, but we ain't got no Jesus, and that's what it all comes down to. Me and this boy right here, we're thick as thieves. When we need something, we got each other's back. But we were running in a gun and trying to make like we was making each other happy. He had a pocket full of money. If he had a pocket full of money, I had a pocket full of money,
Yeah.
and it was all about the dollar. But there was nothing else happy in the process.
You still looking for something?
We're still looking for something. So, and I just be honest with you, with Reagan coming to the house and, all the kids, teenagers, they all welcome at the barn. If they want to hang out somewhere, hey, you're more welcome to hang out, Just be good kids, That's all we could say. Be good kids as long as you ain't getting in trouble, we good, That ain't leadership, But she started going to this Ruwalk deal with Reagan and them, and which is a good program. It's a I guess a booster to get them ready for the big time church. Which I mean they're getting godly stuff, the same God stuff like that. But I'll be honest with you, I was in my barn one night and. Man, I'm blessed. I got a 15-stall barn. You can ride in it. And I was just looking at that barn, I said, but why am I doing this? And at that night, it was like, that ain't what you here for. That's not, you ain't a horse trader. You ain't, yeah, you love to auctioneer, but I got more purpose. I got more reasoning in life. And then, but keep in mind, Braylon's been going to this Ruwalk thing. Braylon gets to see her dad drink beer. And, and I'm drinking beer in front of Trey's daughter, and I ain't even realizing it's consumed my life, and then
Reagan, but Braylon come to church and she got a taste of something different.
yeah. So, but I had a major wreck. I'd got up that morning. I'm gonna share this if y'all don't mind, if y'all got a second. But I got up that morning, worked my chicken houses. That's the first thing on the list. You go get them chicken houses done. You do this, you do that, and I've got this pouring in my mind. My mom, we had just went through changing integrators, and that's when the handprint come about on the chicken houses. Mom anointed our businesses. She's a praying lady, but when I look at that handprint, I was like, she's not. If she's praying over our business to be the best business could be, wonder if she's prayed for me that hard, and wonder if Daddy's prayed for me that hard. But the thing is, when I had a bad God had done showed me. He'd been trying to show me in the barn. He'd been trying to show me in these coon hunts. He'd been trying to show me in the ropings, and through Braylon. Y'all, I wasn't getting no satisfaction. And then one day I get up, I go work my chicken houses. And I was a religious guy. I knew about God, but I didn't have that relationship. But I'm going to tell you, I got up that morning, I worked those chickens. I went down to the horse barn. I had some clients coming that day. We're going to clean up some horses. I was thirsty, man. I've been getting it since 6 o'clock that morning to make it till 10:30, 11 o'clock. Next thing I know, I done drink 2 beers. Next thing I know, I'll go get some feed. Next thing I know, I'm in a wreck. Next thing I know, I'm in jail. And the next thing I know, I'm praying. There's blood on this wall. And I'm in this jail cell. I'm disappointed. I'm embarrassed. But you know what? I had the best. God had to humble me. I had the best vision, talk with God in that jail cell. That's where I needed to be.
He met you right where you were.
He met me right where I was. But when I came out of that jail cell that night, there was my family rooting me on. I was at peace. Y'all, I was at peace when Chris and his youngest daughter got to witness me getting locked up. My youngest daughter and my wife got to witness me getting locked up on the side of an interstate. But I had so much peace with it. And I said, God, I don't know what route you have for me. But if you'll show me, I'm dumb. I'm a good old country fair play boy. Mm-hmm. I ain't good in the books. But if you'll have to write it on a piece of paper and show me the path you have for me, I'll go. Mm-hmm. I'm dropping everything I got just for you. And what got me right there is that happened the next Wednesday. My daughter walks in the house. I'm sitting in a recliner. I don't go to church, barely go on Sunday morning. Mm-hmm. But that next Wednesday, my daughter comes in the living room. I'll never forget it. And she says, no, I look at her and she's got long eyelashes. And I looked up at her and I said, hey, Braylon, how are you? And she was like, I'm good. And I remember it looked like she had heavy mascara on or whatever they put on their eyelids, but she had been upset. And I said, Braylon, are you okay? And she says, and she's kind of short, snappy talking girl. And she's like, yeah, church was really good tonight. I said, it was. I said, well, that's good, Braylon. She says, Dad, she says, I'd like for you to go to Calvary with me. And I was like, and I made excuses. I go there because my kids go there. I said, Braylon, you got it. I said, I'm going to church with you Sunday morning. And she said, I want you to. God.
That's good, though. That's good. Your kids are wanting it, man. You know what?
I was like, and growing. Now I go to church. It's Baptism Sunday. And
let me stop real quick. We had 12 scheduled to be baptized that day.
Yep.
Had 12 scheduled to be baptized. Was it your first service?
First service.
First service. Chris, were you here that day?
No.
You weren't here that day. So I got all these people lined up to be baptized. And Josh, it was back in our old church, and it was packed. It was growing. Was this before COVID? It's before COVID.
Yeah.
So we're it's just an awesome day. And I get done baptizing 12, And then all of a sudden, I see I don't know if Gary Burton was scheduled to be baptized or wasn't scheduled to be
It
baptized.
wasn't scheduled.
And all of a sudden, this guy is just a patriarch in our church, godly man, been saved a long time. He just out of the blue says, "I want to get baptized." So he comes walking up. He's like, "I'm ready for a new season in my life." So I baptized him, and we Pentecostal church. You know how it gets. People get excited, and I'm like, "This is awesome." All of a sudden, here come more people. Out of the blue, I look in the middle aisle, and a red dress steps out in the middle aisle. And how old was she? 16, 17?
16.
16-year-old girl comes walking down the middle aisle, and it's his youngest daughter. She's got this beautiful red dress on.
Beautiful.
She was not on planning to get baptized, but something grabbed her in that service, and she's like, "I want more of God in my life." Matter of fact, when she's coming down, it wrecks me because I know it's Reagan's best friend, and I was like, "What are you doing?" And she's beating line, and she's made up in her mind, something's changing in my life today.
Something has inwardly changed. I'm ready for an outward
What'd that do
expression.
to you?
It wrecked me, which I was a wreck when I walked in there. I mean, the love and the atmosphere, I think is what it was.
You'd been in church before.
I'd been in
bro.
church, in and out, which I was in church heavy before, but I was checking the boxes, you know. But when I gave it to God, church was different. I don't care what church it was, but that day,
You came expecting, needing something.
I
wanting
came, I was like, "God, we talked about this void that's got to get full in my life. You got to write it on paper, though." And the first person I met at the door that Sunday was Gary.
Mm.
And, you know, and I could just feel the love. But I kept thinking, you know, Chris kept popping in my head, you know. I said, "Man, I wish my brother was here to feel this," you know. Because we're twin brothers. I mean, we feel a lot, you know. He's my world. He's my bud, you know. And I thought about that. I was like, I feel this. And it was just like, I don't know, it was like angels. It was, it's hard to
I
describe.
tell you what, I mean, for those that are listening, it was the Spirit of the Lord. It was the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you this, because you'd been in church before, and I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that the Holy Spirit was working on you. But do you feel like there was more of an urgency that happened in your life when you seen that this was affecting your daughter?
Oh, for sure.
Do you feel like when you seen that God was doing a work in your daughter, this is getting heavier for me? Does that make sense? Because I think there's a lot of guys, they might be coming to church and in their mind, they're not thinking this is going to affect my family. I'm just coming for me. I'm just coming to get my box checked off. I'm coming because my family wants me to come or whatever. But when you seen your daughter go up, you was like, wait a minute. Help me out. I just feel like there's a lot of guys out there that's looking at it the wrong way.
So-
and I'm not just talking about church. I'm talking about being a godly father is going to do something. And
So I always hear guys say this thing, "Hey man, I'm here for my kids. I'm here for my kids." Obviously, you were there for your kid, but in this truth, there is a place where God in this season often uses people. And in this place, in your story, it sounds like the Holy Spirit used your daughter to say,
doubt.
"Look, I'm pursuing something." The season of your life, it was just all coming to this place where the Holy Spirit was leading you into this. And it's in this place you see her going. You're going, "Wait, I'm supposed to be the leader.
Yep.
I'm supposed to be the one
That's
running,
what's right.
going, I want this." When you saw her get baptized, what happened?
It wrecked me, man.
I made him a little uncomfortable. I think I
calls
did.
us on stage.
I looked at him because I knew him, and I was like, y'all don't sit there. I said, y'all get up here with her. And I called both of him and Jenny.
Get a front row seat to this thing.
I was like,
Oh,
y'all.
yeah,
I
we
said,
stood
y'all
right
come
there.
stand right here. I'm about to baptize this baby. And I looked, and both of them were bawling. And
And you know what got me about that? Yeah, we come up there and we was with Braylon, but her buddies joined in.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, they didn't leave. That's what I love about this Jesus walk. I'm never alone. And just because we scared to step out of that box a little bit or our comfort zone, always know that your buddy's got you back. And Braylon had Reagan. I remember Reagan was beelining up there.
Yes,
I
she
was like,
was.
she's fixing. I thought to myself,
Don't
she's
get
fi-
in there with her.
she's gonna get in there with her, because it was a real good service.
Yeah.
And I looked, and I was like, no, she's got her
Supporting.
buddies back, supporting her. Now look, and here's another one. Got Tyler and all them,
Yeah.
But you know what got me? That day changed my world.
Mhm.
I was like, I went to asking questions. Hey, I want to be. I'd go to Mama. Hey, Mama, I feel this, and Mama was my go-to, Which my dad, he's quick to listen but slow to speak kind of guy. When he speaks, you need to listen to him.
Yeah.
And Mama, she was kind of. I was like, Mama, I got to get digging deeper in this word, or I feel like I got to do so. And every time she's like, you need to get in your word.
That's good.
You need to get in your word.
Abide with him.
Abide with him.
All right, let's take time. So you was talking about you love your brother. Oh man, love Chris. Chris wasn't there that day.
Nope.
But I got that text that afternoon. I'll
Yeah.
never forget. We're sitting on the wash rack there in my barn, and I see this, and
What does it say?
he's like, check this out or something, whatever it was, Braylon,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a video. I mean, and whoever videoed it, it's like it was planned, and she's walking down this big red, bloofy, pretty dress,
Red dress, yeah.
and we're going to another church, and just checking the box and staying comfortable. That's kind of where we were at, and
How many guys are out there doing that right now?
too many.
Yeah.
Too many. But the wreck, and we'll call it the wreck because that's what it was.
Yeah.
God, he got,
Our life was a wreck.
it was. And it took that physical wreck to say, hey, we got plans.
Mm-hmm.
The way I like to say it is if you was hit by a train, there would be a physical evidence
That's right.
of you been hit by a train.
That's right.
It's been a wreck.
Yeah.
You got hit by the grace train. You got hit by the train of the Spirit of God just colliding into your life. There has to be a change.
Yeah.
You can't keep checking boxes.
That's right.
There's over at Chris' Chicken Houses. We was coon hunting there one night, and we was walking by. There's this old mangled up truck over to the side. I was like, "What is that?" He's like, "That's
Evidence.
He said, "That's the truck that saved my life."
That's right.
That's
Still sits there to this day.
It's just a reminder, of what God's got to do. He'll get your attention somehow. I'll never forget. You told their testimony one time, Brad. You was talking about how, you said earlier you was at peace. I know afterwards you was at peace, but when you was sitting in that jail cell, they slid you a bologna sandwich.
It was a peanut butter jelly or bologna. All I could see, it looked like the sandwich was about that thick,
Was
and
it good?
I didn't eat it.
He knew, all he knew is he needed to get out of here.
Yeah.
This isn't how you wanted to be remembered as a dad, was it?
And it was a shame. But you know what, though? It was a blessing.
Praise God.
It's what God had to do to get your
God
attention.
had
wasn't
it in the plan the whole time.
But you know what? The wreck just was the evidence of this is where you are. But you were living, that morning, you was living life just fine.
Yeah,
The
perfect.
day before, you was living life just fine.
Yeah.
And what you said, Trey, is how many guys are just living life going, figuring it out, but they're not overcomers.
That's right.
They've not overcome some areas or some places in their life. And that I'm praying that whoever's listening, whoever's connected in with this, is that if you're checking boxes and you're going to church for my kids, I think they need this, or I'm checking the box for X, Y, Z. I pray that the grace train runs you over. That whatever God has to do,
It's coming.
Absolutely.
that let the storm come. Listen, when Jonah was going the wrong way, God loved him enough to send a storm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Story after story after story that God's pursuing us, and even yet while we were sinners, even yet while we ain't figured it out,
Yeah.
He is pursuing us. I love the story.
Yeah.
And it's still a learning process every day.
Every day.
But just to say that was, that day was, we started to overcome some battles.
Mhm.
It cleaned up a lot of stuff that needed cleaned, and
The road
Yeah.
was uncovered. There
thank
was-
God,
Talk to me about that. I want to know the journey for some people that goes. So what does it mean to be an overcomer? What was there to overcome? What was some areas in your life that need to be
What
overcome?
nest were you holding on to?
The
Yeah.
dollar.
Well,
Just-
but it's like people want to put a front on, and and I think this is a good deal with the show, is that let's be raw and let's be real.
You'll tell the truth.
We all been there. At maybe not Trey, but me, you, Brad, and probably 98% of the people that watch this podcast.
Yeah.
I pray that what they get out of it is I'm human just like they are.
Absolutely.
You,
Now, I've had my
Brad,
struggles, not to say
You
I have,
have.
but what he's talking about is there's different struggles. And I think one of the things that we don't have in common that Chris is talking about, and listen, we tiptoeing around it, but let's just cannonball right into it.
And if we're going to overcome addictions, whether it's drugs, alcohol, porn, you name it, we could just go on, then you got to find God. You got to get yourself some help.
Absolutely.
And you can go spend all the money you want to, but it's free.
Yeah.
Get in the Word.
Yeah.
You
I
got
prom-
two choices. Remember you told me earlier.
So that Word will get you.
It'll get you though.
Trust
But it's a choice though, guys. And I think a lot of guys are struggling with the fact that, is it because God's not calling them? I don't think that's the case, because I think God is calling everybody. Jesus doesn't want to keep himself, his presence, is a godly father from any family. He wants every man to do it, but it's our choice.
Well,
We
it's like-
have the choice whether we're going to sit in that boat and hold on to what we got or whether we're not. And God had an encounter with you and had an encounter with you.
That's right.
But there were some things that y'all was holding on to that you had to say, listen, I can't keep holding on to this if I'm going to follow that man right there.
Yeah.
That's right.
And you was talking about this is something you dealt with too, but how strong of a hold for other guys or for y'all can relate was that beer? Was that next drink?
Well, to me,
Were y'all somebody that said it like this? If you would have asked before the grace train hit you, would you have said, "Oh, I love Jesus. I like drink a little bit."
oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, it's okay.
You know what? That was just on my mind. It's funny you say that, because my deal was, I'm going to go to church. I'm going to paint my new face, or put my Jesus-filled face on, go to church, hallelujah, praise the
Or
Lord.
dress up.
Dress up, got my family, the kids is there, and get out. Golly, he's going over today, it's already 11.
12:01. We
It's
gotta
just
hurry up.
12:01. We done told all of our other buddies we're going to be on the boat and the lake at, 1:30. We still got to eat lunch, and then by the time you get to your car, everybody, it's a wreck. It's a mess. Well, I don't want to eat there. I don't want to do this. The devil's just tearing and tearing, and it was day after day after day. But after that moment took place that day,
That wreck?
that wreck,
Yeah.
it woke me up and said, God, how can I be better tomorrow than I am today? What can I do today that'll be pleasing to you? Because if I please you, God, you're going to please me. You've already given me peace. I wasn't scared to death in the jail. I wasn't scared to death that my mom and daddy, I had nothing like that come over me. But Josh, you had said a while ago about the dads that's got the hold on. And you asked Trey, you said, I guess you were asking how hard it is to get rid of that. I had so much peace after this incident.
Yeah.
That I didn't have no desire for it.
Let me tell you. Let me see if you remember this. So Reagan comes in one day. She's been at Bradley's.
Yep, I was fixing to mention that.
And she wants to have a conversation with me. And she's at this influential time in her life. She's 16, 17 years old. And she comes to me and she's like, Dad, what's the big deal about drinking? She's like, why can't we drink? I've been raised all my life. I grew up in church, and thank God to my mom and dad. And listen, I'm not trying to beat anybody over the head, so I'm just telling you my life. It's just not. It just doesn't look like anything that I wanted in my life, because I've seen what a drunk looks like,
Destructive.
and I don't want that in my life. And I've tried my best to keep my child away from that kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden one day, my daughter comes in and she's like, Dad, why is drinking such a big deal to you? I was like, baby, listen, I'm not going to argue with you. Like, this is just not what we're going to do in this house. And then she looked at me and she said, but Brad does it. And don't you like Brad?
He's a good guy.
He's a good
He
guy.
loves Jesus. He drinks a little bit.
Honest
Yeah,
to God,
like a fish.
Right.
there was a war going on in her mind, and the enemy was trying to look at, and the enemy was trying to take a leadership of a dad
Yep.
and try to paint a false image,
Trying to confuse her.
Trey,
trying to confuse her. And then,
right there,
yeah,
2 things. You have been her leader for her 16 years of life, since the day you brought her from the hospital.
Yeah.
She knows that the dad is going to be the leader of the house. She comes to my house. They rode horses that day. I'll never forget that day. I mean, I was drinking a Coors Light. You know, I was in my barn. I was doing this. I was doing that. But y'all, I talk to people that have alcohol problems to this day. I ain't gonna tell you that. If you want to drink your beer, you drink your beer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's you. I mean, but I choose to do what I do. But I was talking to a gentleman at the gas station. Long story short, getting back to the leadership, Reagan thought that it was okay because I was Braylon's dad. I was her leader. Dude,
we don't
I was a
understand
joke.
the impact.
You hear me?
Yeah.
You don't understand the
But-
impact of a dad.
But let me, this
right.
is what I always reflect. I knew you were going to say that about Reagan. But this is where I'm at with the guy that's got the alcohol it's embedded in him. I met with a guy the other day. He was at the store. I was getting gas, yada, 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 making small talk. And I love what Jesus is doing in our lives, in my life especially, because I'm on this journey. I love it. But the guy, I'm not going to call any names, but I hadn't seen him. He had been at church, and I'd seen him here at church, and they were doing good. But at any rate, it's a good thing. You know, he's doing what he's doing, and he's like, hey, you ain't gonna ask me how much weight I lost? And I was like, well, man, I hadn't seen you. I didn't realize you had lost weight. But I said, how'd you lose weight? How'd you lose all that weight? And he says, I just cut back 1 meal a day. I went to drinking water, got off soft drinks. He says, but this is what gets me. I just sit around the barn or sit around the house and have a beer or two in the afternoons. You know, there ain't nothing ever wrong with a beer or two. I said, dude, let me tell you something. It wrecked my life. It wrecked my world. It almost took everything away from me. And
The enemy's come to steal, kill, and destroy.
I'm
and
like,
he'll use any
dude,
trap.
let me tell you let me go show you a truck. I had a dog that rode in this truck with me. This dog stayed with me 24/7. I mean, he even went to church with me. He hit the dash so hard that he busted the radio out of the truck. The motor all but come up into the passenger side seat. I got a jammed thumb and a hurt foot out of the deal.
But it's okay to have you a couple of
But
days.
I didn't even scratch the truck a hit. Y'all, if that ain't God, I'm telling you, this semi-truck sitting in front of me, and the old man gets out of the truck, and he said, I thought I hit something in the road. And God, man, he's pouring it in on me. I'm not drunk. Just had a couple beers.
You know, I want to jump into this. Trey said we're going to dive into it. I want to jump into it because there is such right now. There are men that are on the journey of I want to be the man that God's called me to be, and there's some leaders. You're talking about people are leading their homes different. I just want to talk about where we stand on alcohol, where we stand on some addictions and drinking. There's a lot of people right now saying, hey, listen, it's a gift from God. It's good. And I want to just for a second, I want to just dig in. Like, let's hit pause on the stories and let's talk about a topic. As easy it is for a guy to go, it's all right to have a couple beers. And we're longing to be overcomers. How many men have you ever heard that their story was, marriage was tough. I'm an overcomer because I drank a little bit.
Yeah.
How many go, man, parenting was tough, but you know what helped me? I drank a little bit. I've never heard anybody say that alcohol helped them overcome.
Yeah.
The way I see this is imagine there's a guy out here listening that's going, I'm just kind of treading water as a guy. I'm trying to survive. And somebody go, it's all right to have a cold beer. Like, imagine a guy in the ocean treading water, and you go, hey, I'm just trying to survive and be an overcomer. And you go, here's what should help you. Here's a suitcase.
Yeah.
Here's your 24 case.
Yep.
And this dude treading water going, it ain't never helped a person. I'm going to say that I'm a teetotaler. I am teetotal against alcohol. And there are people going, oh, I can show you in the Bible. I can show you story after story of a man.
Now, you've been on both sides, though, right?
It almost destroyed my life, Brad. Chris, it almost destroyed my life because to know that I struggle to walk in the spirit sober as a bat. Don't let any of my inhibitions fall.
What's the old saying? One's too many.
My whole life has been one's too many and 10's never enough. And that's just this place of going, what are we doing? The enemy fights in the dark.
Yep. That's right.
And when you bring alcohol in, you're going into a dark place and you're trying to war with the spirits. There's a reason why they're called spirits. And I know I'm pushing back for some people to go, hey, Josh, listen, I have a different view on this. Great, but I'm going to tell you the view that I have, right? This is my chance to get my...
Hey, it's our podcast.
Here's what I know, is I love to have the conversation when somebody goes, I can show you this in the Bible, I can show you this in the Bible. For a second, put that aside. Let's talk pros and cons.
That's right.
I'm being serious. Let's talk pros and cons.
And that's what causes the confusion
of
so many unbelievers.
Well, let's not confuse anybody. Let's be real black and white. Pros and cons. Tell me a pro from drinking, and I mean that. Give me a pro.
I don't have one.
Okay.
Well, I had one. When I sat down with this, I had one, and I really enjoy the taste of a good bourbon or whiskey. I like the taste. So if I was going to be honest with you, it tastes good. But you know what I found out? I could have $100 handle, but I'm going to end the night with Natty Light. Yeah. Because I'm going to drink 27 of them.
Yeah. If you have one, you're going to drink 20.
My life was, I'm feeding my flesh, and I know I'm going to keep feeding and feeding and feeding and feeding. So, okay, so we come up with one pro. Have you ever heard of a pro of drinking? I mean, any pro, be honest.
I was praying while y'all was drinking.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you. But no, seriously, give me one pro. Is there any pro that comes from it?
No.
Can we talk about the cons for a minute?
I mean, they're good. You and Hayfield, it's 100. It's kind of like what you're talking about. Boy, that beer would be good right now.
Here's a better question.
But
is there
today
a
I choose to drink water.
Is there a long-lasting benefit?
There's no lasting at all.
Yeah, so if we go down the con list, we'd be here all day talking about marriages destroyed. We could go on and on.
How many kids have been buried? Because
I'm going to just go ahead and come out and say, I don't care what preacher told you what you can and can't do. Let me just be honest and blunt. The risk is not worth the reward.
That's right.
There is no way that I'm going to jeopardize this. I want to be an overcomer, and somebody going, oh, I can tell you, ain't nothing wrong with a couple beers. Bro, I don't know that you're in the pursuit to overcome like I am. I don't know that you're in the pursuit to know God the way I am. I want nothing. Hebrews chapter 12 says, now let us lay aside any weight and hindrance. He also says in any sin that's so easily besetting. We know how easily besetting. We know how easily this trap. It ensnares us. That's a trap. Did alcohol not have a hold on you? You could only go so far. It had a hold on me, and I could only go so far. That in Hebrews, when it says lay aside every weight, again, a dude trying to tread water, hold a suitcase. Yeah. Hold a 24 case trying to lay that down.
Yeah, lay it down.
What are we doing? Pursue to know God. And I know I kind of went on a tangent a little bit, but
you did. I mean, you got a little hot
listen,
there.
It's frustrating to me that people are making it okay. They're making it okay to have a couple beers.
But Josh, are they really having a couple?
Come on, man.
Because the two,
I didn't.
I couldn't stop at two.
You start feeding my flesh, there's no end to it.
That's right.
And I'm going to tell you, I didn't have a drinking problem. I had a sin problem. I have a sin problem.
Yeah.
Everybody goes, well, once an alcoholic, always alcoholic, whatever. I have a sin problem. I don't have an alcohol problem. I don't have a porn problem. I have a sin problem. Those problems is I feed my flesh, and you start feeding it, but it gets hungry.
Yeah.
You said something earlier, Chris. You was like, man, men are looking for them. And there's a lot of guys, they're trying to feel, I've talked to a lot of guys. I never dealt with drinking and alcohol myself personally, but I've seen the effects. I've preached too many funerals of young kids that were drunk and swerved over. And I'll never forget of a kid who veered off, went across the lines, and semi-truck hit him.
Yeah.
18-year-old boy. Never forget that. I can't tell you how many kids, young kids, are just starting off life that put a gun up to their head because they was drunk, and they was drunk and was trying to wash away some stupid decision they had made, and because of the influence of something other than God, they made a decision that took their life. But
And you know, I want to say on this is that we said, hey, we want to hear your testimony. We want to hear, we're men, a bunch of men listening and go, how can we be overcomers? I don't want somebody to listen to this and go, here we go, legalism.
Yeah.
What you can and can't do.
Yeah.
No, this is a group of men going, can I help you?
Yep.
That's right.
Can I be honest and help you?
That's right.
Hey, let's lay aside every weight. What's holding you from pursuing and running with? The way that I see it, when he called you to life that day, and there was a life call, it was that train grace that hit you, and he called you to life. When he called Lazarus' name and he came out, what did he told them to do something. The very resurrection and the life, he could have rolled the stone. He told them to move the heavy thing. Move that thing. I'm going to do the spiritual. You do the physical.
That's right.
Do what you can do. I'm about the resurrection of life's about to do the work.
So good.
And then when he called his name, he called y'all's name.
Yep.
And when he called your name, you knew in that very moment, he said, unbind them.
Yep.
Unbind Lazarus.
they were still they were there, but they were still bound up by stuff.
And so
right.
when he calls us to lay aside every weight, man, Lazarus was longing to run to Jesus and just in the pursuit of gratefulness and thankfulness. And he said, unbind him. You can't move in all that. And there's some things that he said so that we can run the race. Hebrew 12 finished it out. It says, lay aside that so we can run the race. It's hard to run with a suitcase.
Yeah.
It's hard to
It's
run.
impossible.
It's hard to run. And so again, anybody's listening to this and going, here we go, two preachers and some guys being legalistic. No, this is being realistic.
Well, let me say
Yeah.
this: you're saying that in no, we don't want to be that guy or that group that looks at somebody and be like, you're going to hell if you're drinking a beer. That's not what we're saying. What I am saying is this: is make sure you weigh out the effects that this is going to have, and is it worth it? Listen, I had instilled in my daughter what we believed, and this is in one afternoon with you, which I'm so glad you're in my life. But that one thing, and she's seen one influence in man in her life, saying, "Hey, it's okay." My daughter was one drink away from being an alcoholic the rest of her life because she's seen another man and another father, and another.
Leading
This is the way it needs to be. And what if my daughter would have got drunk and got killed in a car wreck
On her way home.
on her way
Because
home?
Brad justified, this is how I leave my home.
And I hate to put that
It's all
on
right.
you,
Just
but
have 'em
that's
there.
the leading that's the direction you was leading. You had created an avenue for her to be like, it's okay.
But though, Trey, we say that about Reagan. I go back to that, to you telling me that. I think we were eating
I
lunch
remember
or
where
something.
we was. We met at Los Amigos.
Yeah,
And we sat there.
and that's the part that I hold on to through this, because for that guy says, oh, it's okay to have one or two beers. Hey, it's your body, it's your flesh. You treat it how you want to. There ain't no sin against it. This is where I'm at. What if Reagan, which I don't really call the names out or anything like that, but what if I'm drinking a beer at my barn, we're riding horses, we're having fun, and that person that doesn't drink gets thirsty because it's all right for Brad to drink a beer, and they drink a beer just like you said, and they go out there in the middle of the highway. Yeah, but they ain't drunk, but they've drank a couple, and they didn't look right at the stop sign, and boom, they get hit in the side, and they get killed. Well, that's gonna go. I shouldn't have let that kid drink, But there ain't nothing wrong with drinking beer, guys.
That makes me so mad to hear that.
There ain't nothing wrong
If
with
there's
it.
ever been a time for a man to start standing up and calling it what it is, I actually want us to start saying something. I saw somebody recently, and he was poking me on purpose a little bit. I saw him, and he was picking out whatever. It was a Friday. He's picking out his stuff, and he saw it was me, and so he steered into it. You know, I'm a preacher, and he goes,
Yeah.
"Which one I ought to get, bud?" And I'm gonna start saying this every time I come encounter like this. I don't know what spirit you want to put in you tonight.
That's good.
It's called spirits.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know which spirit you want. Because they say the dark will end up, that spirit will fight you. Is it not? We'll get some fighting in me,
Yeah.
you know.
What if-
hey, come on, like they're spirits. Let's call them what it is.
Yeah.
And if he was calling y'all to new life, he's trying to call out some of those spirits that we've been feeding into us of
Yeah.
pride.
Yeah.
And what am I doing putting more spirits in me? What am I doing with more weight and bondage?
To the guy though, I get a little agitated because I've seen the effects of it from the outside looking in. I've never dealt with it. So I'm going to say this to anybody that's listening, and I hope this challenges them. To anybody who wants to justify allowing that spirit of alcoholism coming in your life, any dad that's got young kids, understand something. If that's the route you want to go, then don't get upset if one day you're standing over their casket because that baby got drunk because she was watching daddy or he was watching daddy. And don't tell me it can't happen.
That's good.
Don't tell me it can't happen. And then guess what? You'll have to live with that for the rest of your life, knowing that if that man almost had an influence on my daughter, then how much of an influence does it have on your own kids? And don't tell me a young boy who wants to be just like his daddy, when he turns 21, ain't going and he's going to get it before
one
then.
of us waited till he was 21.
No.
Well, that's what I was
that
going to
wasn't one of
say.
us.
But even before then, but who's he
Got our
wanting to be
license
like?
good.
But who's he wanting to be like?
Gonna be like his daddy.
If daddy's drinking one, then guess what I want to be like when I grow up?
Yeah.
I want to be like daddy.
And
But you know-
God's calling us to be providers and protectors
That's right.
and pastors. In this protecting part, I think it's just best that I think my kid might could survive playing on 85. He's a pretty sharp kid. My son is. He's pretty sharp. My daughter is too. I bet they could survive playing on 85. How about we just do something? How about we don't even play on 85, right?
That's
right. Let's stay off the interstate, playing.
It's not a good
street
place
hockey.
to
Yeah.
play, yeah.
You go, what are we doing? Like, I'm not even going to go. I think he's strong enough. No, my job is protector.
Yeah.
My job is provider of truth.
Yeah.
And to go, hey, listen, I want to reveal to you there's more times in this that go, stay away from that. Stay away from strong drinks. Stay
Yeah.
away from this. But it's so we hung up on that. But I want to hear what else were you overcoming? I heard money. Well, alcohol.
I want to back up to the
Okay.
to the drinking thing there right quick, because and it goes for overcoming it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we have, I guess people call themselves leaders or whatever, and they are trying to convince people that, hey, it's okay if you won't have a beer now, but or we're gonna go.
Are we talking about spiritual stuff, Chris? When you're talking about leaders, are you talking about church leaders? Or are you just talking about
I mean, where people would go to get their food.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Yeah.
At the church,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
I hate to say that.
Yeah.
that is what it is.
It's welcome at the church too.
Yeah.
And
Yep. Not all churches.
not Calvary.
Yeah.
Not all
but,
churches.
But when you had an encounter with God, Brad, myself, but when I'll go back to the Word.
Got to.
I'll do all day. But I
That's true.
think the people that truly, it's like the song that says, the more I seek him, the more I find him. And the more I find him, the more I love him.
That's so good.
So why would I allow the alcohol to jeopardize that love?
Entangle and
And
separate.
so many people's got our same story that, I'm connected. Brad had he had two choices. I can go drink or I can't go drink. But when he got connected with God and said, hey, this is the way I'm going. Yeah, and I feel that God helped us, to maybe even wash that demon out of us, whether it's drinking, smoking, whatever you do, to jeopardize that walk with God. So I think with the protection and when we get connected, that helps us to overcome, because there's people that really, really struggle with alcohol or whatever, call it what it is. It's all a drug, so
something you holding in your hand. Ain't it?
You got in your hand, and you have the decision to partake of it or not. So my encouragement from my point of view, and I'm no pastor or nothing, or I'm not worthy of probably telling half the people that watch this podcast, but I will say that there's hope in the Word.
Come on.
You've already got.
Come on.
There's hope.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's too big, guys. We can't overcome this. We can't let it go. It's got too much of a hold on our life. When you let it go, did you let it go?
Let it go.
And I'm okay with 12-step programs.
That's
I'm
right.
okay with
I baby
Celebrate
step.
Recovery. Like I know that there's even grace for those who are in the pursuit and stumble. But in the very place of whatever it takes, but what we know is if it's a sin problem in our life, only the blood of Jesus can set us
Yep.
free. And so you do your part. You do your part. You surround yourself with men that are uplifting and building. And then there's this place. You do the physical, watch him do the spiritual. Watch him do the
gonna do it.
miraculous. He sets captives free.
Yeah, we said this the other day in the men's discipleship thing. When Jesus looks at James and John and says, "Hey, follow me," and they got their hands in their nets, they dropped the nets. But here's the thing that if we're not careful, when we let go of things of this world, and you're talking about, man, I'm trying to let go of this addiction, or I'm trying to let go of whatever you're dealing with. If they don't put their hands on the pursuit of God, you've got to make sure that these hands are fulfilling a purpose. And I think the problem with a lot of guys right now is that there's no way I can overcome this. I've been drinking all my life. I can't, I've got to have a beer. I've got to have this. I'm going to tell you something. You think you do until you grab a hold of God.
That's right.
When you connect with not the religious, not the Calvary Church of God, or not this church, or not East Side Worship Center, but when you put your hands, because religion's gonna mess you up, but when you put your hands on the man, and his name's Jesus, I'm gonna tell you something. He'll take away, I've seen it, he'll take away the desire of all that stuff that you've been holding on to. Hey guys, thanks for being with us. We had so much good content, we had to cut it in half. Make sure you check out the next episode. We got Chris and Brad with us for their testimony and talking about some stuff. So make sure you check it out. We appreciate you being with us.